Happy Halloween Eve to all of you. What better way to celebrate Halloween with a special screening of this film? Please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, director, producer, and co-writer, Henry Selick.
Best time of the year.
It is absolutely that time of year, and we are so excited to have you with us on the stage for our big screen presentation of WENDELL WILD, which is streaming right now on Netflix, and you can watch it today, tomorrow, as many times as you want. Henry, this is your first feature film. I couldn't believe it when I actually wrapped my head around it. In 13 years since Coraline. What was this creative process for you, to get to this point where we finally got WENDELL WILD?
Yeah, WENDELL WILD is actually based on a really old short story I wrote when my grown sons were little demons. I did a sketch of them as such, and I wrote a 7-page thing, which actually a lot of the same characters in the movie, and I just put it away. I had a project going after Coraline called The Shadow King, but whatever, creative differences, and that kind of died. I wasn't certain I'd make another film, but I got so inspired seeing the Key and Peele show on Comedy Central. And then after the first 2 seasons, I just took that chance. I reached out and I had this little story, and both of those fellows were interested in working with me, but Jordan wanted to meet, and it turned out he was an expert on stop-motion animation. He knew all about it, and wanted to do more than a voice, and he became my key collaborator in the film. So that was in 2015. We started putting it together. I wanted to do the caricatures of them. They weren't sure about that, but I had this incredible artist, Pablo Lobato, that I connected with. He designed all the characters. And then, of course, Jordan had to go off and do this little movie called Get Out. And after that, I was just riding his coattails. Because everybody wanted me in the Jordan Peele business. Oh, we don't mind Henry Selick, sure. And we founded that song, which was Netflix, because they liked the story, they liked us, and they promised to make the film. It took a little while.
Few questions here. First of all, why did it take a little while? What were the challenges that made it take a little longer than you would have maybe liked?
It's kind of the story of my life. I just accepted at this advanced age that even if I've had some success, it's always starting over again. Oh, that's too weird. Oh, that's too dark. Oh, that's too scary for kids. It's too original. It's not like something that we just saw last week. And they quickly forget that actually, it has worked out pretty well for our movies. But, short memories. They just, no one likes to take a big chance, and I was so happy when streaming began, because the idea that you live or die by the weekend box office suddenly didn't matter in the same way. I mean, look, we love to have our films on big screen. I'm so happy for events like this, and I hope there's more. Let's face it, lots of big screen TVs at home. It's not so bad to give you the film a chance to find its audience, and that's what you get with streaming.
Watching the film twice, because it dropped on Friday, high definition on a 65-inch TV was pretty sweet, let's face it. And it is so perfect to have it now in time for Halloween. But the other question I want to back up to is the collaboration with Jordan Peele. Is that you collaborated with him as a co-writer on the screenplay, as a co-producer, and of course as a performer. So what was it that made it special? What was it about Jordan Peele? Working with him on so many levels that just made him special and unique compared to other filmmakers that you've worked with?
It was just surprising and wonderful how complimentary we were of each other. Not compliments, but that his skill set and mine fit together so well. There's a certain amount of overlap, but he also, he at the very beginning, he talked about this new company he was putting together called Monkey Paw Productions and the types of films he wanted to make. He convinced me that the protagonist should be young Kat, when in the original it was Sister Helly, and I was worried about getting too close to Coraline. He said, well, it won't be if she's a person of color, and he let me choose. And I said, well, then she's going to be African American. We kind of discovered the Afro-punk thing together, and then that look rippled through as an emotional through line to her dad. He was a big contributor at the beginning to grow the characters, to grow the story, and going forward, he was, I've said it in other interviews, but it's a true thing, he was the tone master. He's so good about tone, about not raising red flags needlessly, not giving people excuses to attack the film on some issue or, some subject that really didn't matter to the film. It might just like, how much is too much? How big are the scares? How big of a story do we make the whole juvenile justice thing in private prisons? Because that actually came more from my side, but he knew what was too much. So that's, I'd say it was just, he always had this ability to stay back. And then, he went off and did the films, and then he'd check in. And he also has some very, very talented partners. I also have additional partners with the Gotham group, who are producers on the film and longtime managers. Alan Goldsmith-Vane, who's right over, where'd you go? Why don't you stand up? And Lindsay Raines, who's seen the room. Hey, Lindsay. I have a good sounding board. And of course, my wife, she never holds back, always tells the truth, and then whether I agree or not, she always is having me back in the woods.
So I want to back up to the Afro-punk thing that you mentioned. I mean, the music is such it's a character in this film. It really does set the tone for this movie that helps make it unique in so many ways compared to the other features you've done. Like, what went into the process of picking the music to go along?
Okay, I say this up front because people wouldn't maybe expect it, but in 1985, I wrote and directed a music video, Fishbone, which was a punk LA band. They're still going. They're crazier than ever. But yeah, I did that, and kind of through them, I became aware. I was into punk music. I became aware, though, of the black and brown first-gen punk band, so it wasn't foreign territory. But I didn't go into the film with that in mind. It really started with, well, what's a look for Kat? What's something, once she gets out of her Judy Justice uniform, how is she gonna dress herself? How's her hair gonna be? And both Jordan and I sort of came into this awareness of Afro-punk movement, which has been around for over 10 years. It's a musical, social movement, mainly young African Americans, but a lot of other folks are welcome, who appreciate and celebrate the first gen black and brown punk bands, and also new bands. Like we feature a song by Big Joni, this British group that's amazing, and they also feature black punk adjacent or Afro punk adjacent people like Janelle Monáe. And so first it was, wow, these people have the most incredible body art, hair, costumes of any humans on the planet. It was I was like eating it up like a meal. And then that led to, well, how are we going to feature any music at all? And then, well, I'll have a boombox. I found this single speaker thing, and we painted the eye on it, and it became much more than the look. It just became the bridge between Kat and her beloved father as a first-gen fan, and his mixtapes and his boombox. And then it became, what are the right songs? And a lot of people had good input on that. One of our producers, Brandon Coulter, well, an executive actually from Netflix. The animation exec who came sort of late onto our project, but really had an influence on the music, Karen Tolliver. She's now head of animation there. And I have an amazing editor, Mandy Hutchings. She came up with a lot of ideas. Other folks with Jordan. He knows the guy from TV on the Radio, Tunde. So we used the song there. So it was so much fun. We actually initially had a few songs and then we lost them, like Ghost Town, which is the song you hear when you go down to the underworld. But it's too expensive, oh that's too expensive, and then Bruno Coulet, our composer, tried to replace them. But they weren't working as well, and eventually, with Win Rosenfeld from Monkey Paw, Brandon Coulter, and especially Karen Tolliver, we got all the songs back we'd lost and added more, and I'm so happy with our soundtrack.
Soundtrack is really, really amazing. When I was watching Wendell Wild, I realized how much I missed seeing a Henry Selick feature film. It's been so long.
I really appreciate it, thank you.
When it came to Wendell Wild, it really struck me how it is a different film from your previous features, but it still feels like a Henry Selick film because it has the visual imagination. It has the darkness, but also when you least expect it, hits you right here in the heart. What were the challenges this time to make sure that you achieve that balance of bringing in all the visual elements, but still, hitting it right here in the heart?
This is a more complicated film than any I've made. It has, multiple storylines, character arcs, mix of comedy, fantasy, horror, and strong drama, strong emotions. And I especially wanted the emotional through line to be extra strong. I don't get to make many of these movies. I wanted this one to have a little more of everything. So I feel, we found our way to do that. Balancing it all, blending it all was a huge challenge, and that was the one positive about a big delay we had in the middle of production from COVID, because we can all work from home like a lot of, it's a CG animated film, basically everyone can, but we're shooting on real stages, miniature stages with puppets and lights and so forth, so we had to shut down. And in the long run, that extra time really helped me and the team, Monkey Paw folks, my editor, my storyboard artists, really find that balance. And that's what it's all about. How much is too much? What's something we need to throw away? Oh, there was a long-running push from an unnamed executive at Netflix to use Manberg, but no way. Manberg stays.
I've been doing a lot of these in-theater conversations with filmmakers. So many have said that, in fact, I was Reginald Hudlin, who directed King Richard. I did a Q&A with him here, and he talked about, when the lockdown happened, it actually helped the film because he had more time to work on it. That sounds like what you were able to do. But, ladies and gentlemen, it has been almost 30 years since The Nightmare Before Christmas. And the question really is, what are some of the technological advances, especially since Coraline, that you've observed in stop motion that you're able to take advantage of for Wendell Wild?
The biggest advances actually happened between Nightmare and Coraline. I'll spell them out quickly. You probably are familiar with most. We used to shoot on the film, 35mm film. It still captures beautiful detail and has a look unlike we have yet to achieve in digital. But then the big heavy cameras, these old Mitchell cameras, which were, heavy and hard to move around. One of the innovations on Night Air was we had a lot of motion control camera moves. The rigs that had to be built were super large and heavy duty. The DP on that and many of my other films through Coraline, Pete Zacek was a genius at many things. He designed and built those flying things. But what we didn't have initially was the ability to store a frame digitally. For example, if a Jack's running along and breaks his ankle, the puppet breaks his ankle and falls over, it was a restart, maybe we could do a cutaway, but the shot was done. And then this huge innovation came through, digital frame grabber, where we put a video tap on the camera, a little video camera, and the frame grabber could grab 2 frames. But that was enough. If we had an accident, if somebody got drunk on Friday night, bumped into a set, we could carefully get it back. A puppet fell over, get it back. But if a puppet had to jump or fly, we had to hang it from stuff called spider wire. So thin, 35 millimeter film couldn't see it, but that's also so thin that you breathe on it, it'll break. So there's more and more and more, but I'll fast forward. On Coraline, we're shooting digitally. Cameras are much, much smaller. We have the ability to capture the whole performance. If there's an accident, we have the whole thing and we can click back and forth. We also we shot that 3D. It was the first, I think first animated film shot originally in 3D. And it worked very well for Coraline. We actually beat Avatar for best 3D film of the year. Society. But even then, because I could, it was the first film of Leica's, and I really pushed her to not embrace too much CG. There's a scene with 150 Scotty dogs in a theater. That would be an excuse to do CG, but no, we made them all, and it's only a handful that can really do anything. Or there's the Jumping Mouse Circus, where again, if we'd done CG, it wouldn't have been as good as Pixar or other people. It would have been kind of second-rate. So we came up with a way to do replacement cycles. Each jumping mouse had 5 different positions. You just pop one in after the other, and you do your charts like a high school marching band choreography. So we could fixes in post. We could, instead of wires, we could have motion control rigs for a puppet to be attached to and jump, and then we could paint it out, have a clean plate behind. But since then, to where I got to make another film, I'd say some stop motion films were using so much CG, for crowds, for smoothing things, for painting out all the states, that they didn't really look different than CG. And it's kind of like, well, what's the point of going through this laborious effort to hand out any puppets if you're just hiding it all? So the fact is, we kind of went backwards in one sense on Wendell Wild to show that off more, leave more mistakes in. The seam lines in the face where we're changing upper and lower faces separately to create a range of expressions and talking. And we left the seam in. We had those seams on Coraline, and I fought to leave them in, but they couldn't handle it. So it's pushing animators to work a little more quickly so their animations may be a little more fluid. You might have more mistakes, but the performance comes through. So that was one of the main things I wanted, is that even though it's great stop motion animation, it's more obvious. I think the audience has to sit up a little more instead of just laying back and having perfect, smooth, lubricated visuals wash over them. But of course, I'm going to embrace any new technology that can complement that. So at Coraline, we were able to build these incredibly huge stages and backgrounds and all that. We couldn't afford to do that, so all the exteriors were limited sets, and then we would create the backgrounds digitally and comp them in. So we were able to build the worlds using the latest technology, and then most all the effects, fire, smoke, and so forth are also digitally created.
Well, I would like to open this up to the audience, because I mean, like, we have questions, and like, here we are with Henry Selick, so here's your chance. But before I just have one question, so hold that thought. But Henry, what do you love still after all these years? What do you love the most about stop motion animation?
I kind of love the culture, the team I work with, this kind of unusual way to make magic, where it's very much like live action in miniature, with a hair department, costume department, lighting, grips, almost everything that you have in live action, but it's in miniature, and it all happens very slowly. Instead of an army focused on getting one shot, it's broken down into small teams, where we can have 15, 20 stages going at once, all behind blackout curtains. And I just feel like the luckiest person in the world to be able to go from set to set, from department to department, to see all the things at various stages of development, to watch a rough rehearsal in the editing room, and they talk about puppet performance, then go out and see the latest giant bulldozer that's being built, or these huge hands that we built that are, so we have it direct interactive. It's just, that's the thing. I certainly don't think stop motion films are better than other types of animation, but it's what I was drawn to a long time ago, and what brings me back is that type of team and all those talents they bring. I mean, a stop motion animator, the best in the world, are certainly as talented as the best rocket scientists or the best brain surgeons. Maybe what their contribution isn't as much, but these are mind-blowingly great talents to breathe life into something, to start on one side of a chasm and perform frame at a time, get your character to the other side of the scene successfully. It's a miracle every time.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, we've got a question. You right there, glasses.
I'm wondering, when it comes to the scale of like the larger thing, like those giant hands, how's that determined? Because we're speaking miniatures for a lot of the filming, but at a certain point, like the hand is, you have a whatever, it's like 5'8" person standing next to these giant hands, and just like what goes into determining like what would work for that scale?
Gentleman wants to know about scale of how, or the puppets a certain size, or if they're interacting with something large. It's kind of like you start with what's the size of the puppets that are going to be 90% of the film. You want to be able to go in for close-up and it doesn't fall apart. I mean, if the puppet's too small, go to a close-up and the illusion, it could just look too chunky and fail. So, and we've gotten really good at making detailed faces so the puppets don't have to be gigantic, but the puppets range in size, from as small as 6 inches up to like 16, 18 inches tall. And then here and there, you want to sell scale. And so just like in the original King Kong, from 1930, they got the big hand coming through the window to grab Fay Ray and take her out. Well, it works. You build giant hands because Buffalo Belzer captures most of the characters, and to have real interaction like that, or when he's got the soul jockeys and he's like getting the truth out, what happened, where did went a while ago in Sarah Cream, you really want that interaction from our regular scale to hands like that. We have a few other large scale items here and there, a few close-up hands of like Running Wild and other characters, a larger head of Belzer for close-ups, and then we went the opposite for in the bulldozer battle. the big battle scene at the end of the film. We have huge bulldozers that weigh way too much. Like bottleneckers, you have to use metal. It's like 180 pounds. But we can't build for the wide shots, we can't build a set full scale. So we build a quarter scale set, quarter scale bulldozers, and then we, to have the characters running, instead of making horrible little wire figures that would give it away, we have an animator do a run cycle, captured at scale, into the computer, and then print out that run cycle, replace the run cycle at the tiny scale. It's a constant thing that evolves. How big works for you.
Okay, who's got a question? Right over there, you, yes.
Hi, Henry, your movies have such a strong sense of setting. They really become such a primary character in the movie. I'm just wondering, for now Rust Bank, were there any inspirations that you had, and how did it evolve from the original story?
Yeah, I have a few short answers for this. It's the name. I grew up near a town in New Jersey called Red Bank. Near Red Bank Catholic. There was a Father Best. But he wasn't fun or friendly, he was scary. When I stopped going to Sunday school at age 5, for a little while he came to the house looking for me. But those are just sort of names. Really, we were looking at areas around Detroit. That was a city and its suburbs that when the jobs suddenly went away, when auto manufacturing was moved to other states, unions and things, whole neighborhoods were just decimated, really fast. So that kind of became an inspiration visually and story-wise for the town. Just a one factory town. And as far as other places, the underworld, I looked at open pit mines, sort of spiral things, and also just large humans floating in hot tubs, and the physics of that. Anyway, those are, and those kind of cover, those are some of the main influences. The final look, though, ties into the character designs, which were done by this really talented guy, Pablo Lobato from Argentina. And so because he started first, I wanted caricatures of Wendell Wild and a few of the other characters, we had to have a look that could fit in with his style.
Okay, yeah, right here, you're the last question. Nice and loud.
I love all of your feature films, but I really like the short films you did years and years ago, like Slow Bob in the Lower Dimensions. And I wonder if you have any plans to make any sort of mixed media shorts like that, or if that's something that still inspires you.
The gentleman was referring to some things early films, student films. I'd done a whole bunch of stuff for MTV, and then I did this pilot for what was going to be a series called Slow Bob in the Lower Dimensions. Each episode would feature a different style of animation as Bob traveled to different places using art to fix problems. And the funny thing is, that was ready to go as a series when I got the call from Tim Burton that Nightmare had been revived, and he was too busy to direct. And I'm really happy I chose to direct Nightmare, but I often wonder, what would have happened if I'd done that other series. Sort of reviving, mixed media. I mean, even the film you just saw does have a fair amount of mixed media, like the huge stretchy faces of Wendell and Wild, disembodied heads in their hands when they come to visit Cat's dream, the redemption chamber. I still like to mix it up. As far as what the combos might be in the future, I couldn't say at this point.
So ladies and gentlemen, now that you've seen this film, and now that it is streaming on Netflix, please do spread the word. How do you spread the word about a movie these days? You go on social media. So, go on Netflix, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, Go in the back, if you're still using MySpace. Totally cool, no problem at all. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Henry Selick.
And if we get a lot of people watching on Netflix, we get to make another film.